YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today's video, we have a reaction. I haven't done reactions in a minute, so we're gonna do one today. Hopefully, y'all rock with this one, because every time I do a reaction, it's like y'all ask for different content. Then when I post the different content, it's like y'all be. We got damn 5 unsolved cases that were finally solved. We gonna watch that video today, react to it, see the unsolved cases. We got the pen. We're gonna be getting high as well. So make sure if you're new, like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, y'all know we don't do no talking. We just gonna get right into the video after this hit. Got no water right next to me. Damn. I'm gonna get a water real quick. Hold on. Get that water. Shit clogged up. Start the screen record. 3, 2, 1. Screen record going. Start the video now.
Some things in our world are simply unexplainable, no matter how hard we try to dig into them. Sometimes these real-life horror stories do have a good ending when they're finally solved many years down the line. Number 5. On November 19th, 1995, the infamous Wem Town Hall burnt down. The historic 90-year-old building had been one of the focal points of the town's history, and now the people watched as that history was destroyed within a matter of minutes. Amateur photographer Tony O'Rahilly ran out of his house after hearing the news and sped towards the town hall, hoping to capture the last images of the historic building. But what Tony photographed that evening would go on to become one of the town's darkest mysteries, and it wasn't until 15 years later that the mystery was solved. As news spread around the town that the Wem Town Hall was on fire, residents gathered outside to watch firefighters tackle the blaze. Years of history and culture had been lost within minutes, and now the community was wondering how they were going to rebuild the important place. For Tony O'Rahilly, the fire gave him the perfect opportunity to hone his photography skills, and as he watched the fire rage, he snapped this picture. It wasn't until he went home and developed the photo from the film that he discovered something very creepy. Standing in the doorway is what appears to be the apparition of a young woman, dressed in a gown and bonnet. According to Tony O'Rahilly, the ghost was not there when he took the photo, and it certainly gave him a shock when he saw it. Has Tony managed to capture a real-life ghost? And if
I do not believe in none of, I ain't gonna say I don't believe, but like a ghost. I mean, a ghost is the same thing as like a demon, right? Like it's the same. Well, I don't know, but like ghosts, like people, like the fake people and like shit like that. I don't believe in that. If y'all get what I'm saying, like ghost, like a person's a ghost. I don't believe in that type of stuff.
so, who was she, and why had she been standing at the door, glaring at onlookers? The photograph was sent to the local newspaper, and soon everyone in Wem and beyond knew about the ghost. Some speculated that it was the ghost of a girl named Jane Churn, who accidentally set a fire in 1677 with her candle. The town was abuzz with rumors, and it became a local attraction for a time. That was until 15 years later in 2010, when the horror story of the Wem ghost was finally put to bed. In 2010, 77-year-old Brian Lear came forward to newspapers, claiming that he had finally solved the mystery once and for all. Brian told the Daily Mail that the Wem ghost captured in 1995 bore a striking resemblance to a girl who featured in a 1922 postcard of Wem High Street. A closer look at the 1922 image shows that the clothes and poses of the two are exactly the same. Greg Hobson of the National Media Museum said, quote, "The postcard offers pretty conclusive proof that this is a hoax. I think we can say the mystery has been solved." After 15 long years, the mystery of the Wem ghost has finally been solved and debunked as a hoax, thanks to one eagle-eyed resident. Number 4. In 1975, NASA launched Viking
Why did
1,
I think
an
he was gonna be
unmanned
murdered,
spacecraft that was tasked with going to Mars. This was an incredible leap
Why did I
forward for
play this one?
humanity, but this achievement was overshadowed by what became known as one of the strangest mysteries in the world and beyond. When the Viking 1 spacecraft neared the surface of Mars, its job was to take photographs to allow analysts to find a suitable landing spot for their second craft, Viking 2. As the Viking 1 was snapping photos, it came across something that deeply disturbed humanity for the next 25 years. The launch of Viking 1 was a great success, and NASA scientists watched as it launched in August of 1975. Almost a year later, in 1976, Viking 1 landed and everyone at NASA breathed a collective sigh of relief. Now all they had to do was wait for the images to be transmitted back to them to allow them to find a suitable landing spot for Viking 2. As analysts carefully waited at their stations, poring over images and data, they saw something. In one of the photos, a very human-like face could be seen staring back at the camera in the region of Cydonia on the planet. Scientists used data from Viking 1 to determine that the bizarre face was 2 miles from top to bottom, adding yet another creepy layer to this scary story. The work of Viking 1 continued, and a few days after the discovery, NASA went public with what they had found. The general public was both enamored and frightened by what NASA had found over the years, and the infamous face on Mars would become a hot talking point. For 25 years, NASA scientists were left baffled by the creepy and mysterious face that lurked on Mars. It wasn't until 2001 that the mystery was finally solved, when NASA ordered more images of the face and the surrounding areas to be taken. With new technologies at their disposal, NASA quickly realized that the infamous face on Mars had been nothing more than an optical illusion, caused by the light hitting rocks at various points, creating a human-like face. Number 3. On February, than an optical illusion caused by the light.
It looked like a nose, and that's it. Like just right here. That's not a face.
Hitting rocks at various points, creating a human-like face. Number 3. On February 11th, 1992, the doors of the A&E department in a hospital in Danbury, Connecticut, swung open as a patient was rushed through on a bed. Doctors and nurses raced the patient through corridors and into a treatment room where he could be assessed. At the time of his admission, the man had gone into cardiac arrest, and now medical staff were in a fight against.
All of this started when we discovered the benefits of local raw honey for our family.
And then we said it's time to save this man's life. Little did the medical staff on duty that day know that this patient was hiding a dark secret, and his treatment would come with a creepy and disturbing backstory. For 90 minutes, medical staff worked on the patient, who had been admitted under the name of Tom Hughes. Work on Tom started at 9 a.m., but at 10:30 a.m., doctors had exhausted their efforts and Tom was declared deceased. Medical staff now had to contact Tom's family to tell them the bad news, but there was a catch. When Tom had been admitted to the hospital, he had used a fake name. Staff at the hospital would also discover that all of the information he had given was false. The number for his wife didn't work, and the address led nowhere. Even the social security number that Tom had used was fraudulent, leaving medical staff mystified. Who was this man, and why had he admitted himself under a fake name? The first clue came when his personal items were searched, and staff found a receipt from a hospital in California. They also found a bus ticket from Pennsylvania to Connecticut, and began to put the pieces together. After calling in the help of the authorities, staff and police began to track Tom's movements, and uncovered something truly bizarre. In the months leading up to his passing, Tom had checked himself in at hospitals across the country, staying there for 3 to 7 days before.
Like, you know how you watch these videos and it'd be like somebody talking with like the dry ass voice, and it'd be uninteresting, even though I thought this was gonna be about people dying. This one's still interesting, but the next video we're gonna do unsolved murders, because that one's like more interesting stuff than this. But this one's
disappearing when it came time to pay the bill. Tom had also been in contact with lawyers, and investigators believed that Tom planned to stay in the hospital and then receive compensation for his ailments. Unfortunately, Tom passed away during his admission to the hospital in Danbury, and the police believed that he had received a cocktail of medicines at each facility. Tom's case quickly stagnated, and a year later, his case was featured on the TV show Unsolved Mysteries. When the segment aired, the police department received new calls stating that they knew the man in the photograph. Tom Hughes was later identified as Thomas Patrick White, who was suffering from Munchausen syndrome, leading him to admit himself to the hospital even though he was healthy. Number 2. In May of 1992, a man awoke feeling groggy and strange. As he adjusted to the light and looked around, he realized he was in a ditch. The man pulled himself up and looked at road signs, which confirmed that he was in Southern California. His head still felt funny, but he gathered the minimal belongings that he had with him and began to walk to the nearest highway. Walking down the highway with the sun beating on his back, the man was revealed to encounter a gas station with a phone that he could use to call for help. The only problem was, he had no idea who he was, where exactly he was, or even who to call. All of a sudden, the situation became clearer and clearer. This man had no idea who he was and was living in a real-life horror story. Panicked, he began rummaging around in the blue duffel bag that he had found himself with, and pulled out a Boston Library card that bore the name Pierre April. With nothing else to help him, the man assumed that it must be his, and he carried on walking, now using the name of Pierre April. Eventually, after hitchhiking through various cities, Pierre found himself at the St. Vincent de Paul homeless shelter in San Diego. Days had passed since he woke up in a ditch, and with only $17 in his pocket, his choices were limited. Luckily, a kind soul pointed him in the direction of the homeless shelter, and from here, the mystery began to unwind. After assessing his condition, a caseworker at the shelter began to work with Pierre to help him get his memory back and get him home. As months progressed, Pierre began remembering small pieces of information about himself, and found that he was very good at physics and math. These small pieces of information were not enough, and months later, the TV show Unsolved Mysteries got involved in Pierre's case. Shortly after the episode aired, the TV station received the call that they had been waiting for. Someone recognized Pierre and confirmed that his name was Pierre April and he was from Canada. Police worked closely with Pierre and his family to confirm the identification and to reunite them. Pierre would later tell investigators that he had no recollection of how he ended up in California, and doctors suspected that he'd suffered from trauma-induced amnesia. Months later, Pierre was reunited with his family, and the mystery of the wandering man in California was finally solved, and all thanks to the TV show Unsolved Mysteries. Number 1. To the outside world, 34-year-old Eric Myers had it all.
So he was from Canada and ended up in California? Even if he had amnesia, how did he get there? Like, how did, like, I do not know, bro. This just don't make no
He was
sense.
married to his high school sweetheart, Anne, and the two had welcomed 5 children into the world. Eric had received a good education, had a job, and his family lived comfortably, and had plenty of time to spend with each other. But one weekend in June of 1991 would plunge the Myers family into their very own real-life horror story, when the patriarch of their family mysteriously disappeared.
At Aspen Dental, get replacement dentures starting at $2.99 per arch. Schedule your free consultation.
On June 25, 1991, Eric left his home in Arizona and flew to San Diego to attend a 4-day-long real estate class. Eric appeared excited about the seminars and was eager to learn, but deep down, something was troubling him. According to the LA Times, Eric attended all of the seminars apart from the last one on June 29th, and after that, he simply dropped off the map. When he failed to return home, his wife reported him missing and an investigation was opened. Investigators looked everywhere for Eric, and his family also conducted their own investigations into his disappearance. There was not a day that went by that the Myers family didn't think about Eric, But during the investigation, some very important clues were revealed. In the months before his disappearance, Anne and Eric had been locked in a battle. Anne wanted to attend college, but as Eric was deeply Christian, he believed that this didn't fit in with his idea of a traditional Christian wife. Anne was headstrong and determined to go to college, putting a significant strain on the marriage. She put the idea of divorce on him. Anne was headstrong, but as Eric was deeply Christian,
I didn't hear that.
in the months before his disappearance, Anne and Eric had been locked in a battle. Anne wanted to attend college, but as Eric was deeply Christian, he believed that this didn't fit in with his idea of a traditional Christian wife. Anne was headstrong and determined to go to college, putting a
What does college have to do with being Christian? Like, somebody in the comments, somebody let me know, because I genuinely don't know. What do going to
significant strain on the marriage.
come on, bro.
She put the idea of divorce on the table, but Eric declined for religious reasons. Then Eric went away on his business trip and never returned, leaving the family in limbo.
Christian,
The family
Christian.
was held in this desperate position for over 16 years. They waited anxiously every day for the answers they had been waiting for,
16
and in
years?
2007, those answers came. In 2007, the family began receiving bizarre and cryptic emails from someone, asking them if they wanted to know what happened to Eric. The family hastily replied, and a few months later, the truth was finally revealed. Eric Myers was alive and well, and for the last 16 years, he'd been living a different life. While his family fought and prayed for him to come
No
back,
way.
Eric was alive, living his new life without his family. According to Eric, on the last day of the seminar, most of his money was stolen and he was forced to stay in a cheap motel. The next morning, something possessed him to cross the border into Mexico, and from there, he never looked back. After staying in Mexico for a while, Eric headed to Palm Springs, California, where he would meet his future partner, Sean Long. From a very early age, Eric knew that he was attracted to men, and had spent the last 34
said he
years
was
of
a
his life
Christian.
suppressing his feelings.
Oh,
He would later tell the
Oh
media that he
my
felt like he
God.
had to run away and
Bro.
escape his old life to start anew.
This has to be one of the craziest endings ever, bro. There's no way right now. Hold on. We gotta go back. What? Hold on. Oh my God.
Seminar. Most of his money was stolen and he was
So that's
forced
why
to
you left
stay
your
in a
wife.
cheap motel. The next morning, something possessed him to cross the border into Mexico, and from there, he never looked back. After staying in Mexico for a while, Eric headed to Palm Springs, California, where he would meet his future partner, Sean Long. From a very early age, Eric knew that he was attracted to men, and had spent the last 34 years of his life suppressing his feelings. He would later tell the media that he felt like he had to run away and escape his old life to start anew. His family and now ex-wife were informed that the man she had declared legally deceased was now alive and well, but that wasn't all. To add further insult to injury, the insurance company that had paid out Eric's life insurance after he disappeared sued Eric's ex-wife for $800,000 and won. Eric's daughter later told ABC News, quote, "It almost hurt more to have him come back than it did for him to go in the first place." This bizarre mystery has finally been solved, but unlike other mysteries, this one does not come with a happy ending for everyone.
Right, like,
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video,
family got married to a man. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. But like, you couldn't tell your wife you didn't want to be with her and then left. You just had to clear it, leave them high and dry, think you were dead. Just for him to find out 16 years later that you're alive and you moved on with somebody else. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I thought this video was gonna be dry, but this one was actually good. Make sure if you know, we're gonna take one more hit. Just for this W video, y'all need to run this up. You need to run this video up. Every time I do a reaction, it's like y'all don't want to see those, but gotta do what I gotta do. Take one more hit, then we gonna end it. comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna see you on the next video. We out.
God took me right up out my sins, I can't go back. Holy step and gaining real knowledge, you can soak that. Thank God he gave me good light and brought hope back. Big stepping on the devil's head, got my toe fat.